somehow being held. Somebody gave me milk. Somebody kept me alive. And it's that kind of primal love I just hold inside of me for this life and then that life, all life. So I'm in it. So it's not, I'm in it all the time. I'm not in it. And this is my self-love. And then I'll love you later. Or I'll catch up with you. So it's not self and other. It's just love. The article that I wrote, Be Love, an exploration of our deepest desire, came out of this experience of actually I was listening to Tina Turner, singing her song. And what's love got to do with it? And it made me stop to think, really, what is it? And I think the reason why I was, holding on to it and asking the question was because I felt like I had been unsuccessful at it. So let me be the first to say I felt unsuccessful at knowing what love was and experiencing it. And to admit that was to begin to forgive myself for not being able to experience love or not feeling I could be loved. So just admitting that I couldn't understand it, or experience it. So, and listening to Tina Turner sing the song, What's Love Got to Do with It, which I've heard many, many times, and I'm usually singing out loud with it, I stopped and said, like, wait a minute, love has to do with everything and everyone. It's like, like I was talking back to her. And I didn't know that I had been doing that for a little while. I have been actually having a conversation with Tina Turner ever since that song was, I would listen to it. And it's like, it has to do with everything. Love has to do with everything. When I was in the environment of a desegregated school and no one wanted to even give me eye contact or, touch me, then of course I'm feeling unloved in that situation. But when you go back and look at it as a primal instinct, you find out that the love is always there. It's there inside me. It's there just in life, and it's there as an experience for all of us to meet and to hopefully express. So when we come into the world with this love, I think it's the adults that are learning how to love when the baby comes in, that it's the adults who are learning how to be with the baby. The baby already has love. And so we're learning through the baby what love is, to look at someone directly and not have any, negative feeling or have any, misunderstanding because it doesn't know. It's just looking and seeing until it's taught something else, till the baby's taught something else. So if love is a primal instinct, it's also one of our deepest desires, I think. And that's because I think because of being held personally when we come into the world, it's our deepest desire to be held in that way and to be looked upon someone that someone would want to hold you in that way, and then you go, oh, I'm loved. But if it's in that, if it's inside and it's coming from us as like a hunger, that pain that comes up when we want to be fed, to eat, then it's something to me that puts the experience back into the body and back into oneself to be and then to express. So it could be both an act. Love can be an act. You can act it out and express it, but it also is a description of God. It's a description of what you see as God. For me, God is within. So then love is within. Love is within. And that for me was a great understanding um, and a platform in which to work at that place in which I felt completely unsuccessful at love, at even being with people. Like I had this, like, I don't like people, because I felt they didn't like me. So I was fearful of people. And then trying to establish relationships with other people, As a young person, I just decided I didn't have the energy for it. A lot of people rushing off to be have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and I was just really trying to study. So I wasn't interested in it because I think there was a deep down fear I would be rejected, and so I didn't realize the rejection had already begun. At an early age, like 5 or 6. So it made sense for my experience to be, by the time I got, 12, 13, when you start exploring, it was all over for me by then, because I had already been, you know, beat up and spit in the face for being who I am. So, no, I'm not going to extend myself. So I had to really work at a different perspective of love in order to survive this life, and in order to even try to experience what it means to be in relationship with other people, whether it's romantic or not. What that meant, and where did the fear come from? And you know, afraid to be myself, and not realizing even the people who were not what I felt not loving me were basically not understanding love either themselves. So like even coming to that, and it's a long journey, but even coming to through that pain and to understand, you know, the various ways in which love is uh, really not presented in its truest essence. I realized it wasn't going to happen in my head. It wasn't going to be in my mind. And that's another one of the lines in the songs. Is she says, uh, would that, oh, love was a secondhand emotion. She says that, and I'm like, I had to stop at that one too. Now this is why I'm still listening to the song, like a song I had never heard before. Suddenly, like, love is a secondhand emotion, and like, who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? And I used to sing that really loud. That song, who needs a heart? And I realized that my heart was broken. So you need a heart to even say, my heart is broken. And so even being connected to that song was being brokenhearted. And so I said, so you need the heart to say, my heart is broken. And you also need the heart to say, I'm well. And so, when you begin to understand, uh, life and the body and the spirit and the mind and all these things in alignment in that way, I think you begin to, experience not only love, but other wonderful experiences of life that are there for everyone, and you begin to experience more joy, which is I did. And I do believe that it was from the Dharma path, in the beginning. Like I was saying, the fear and discomfort and suffering, we come to the practice to help alleviate some of that. And we come to, a lot of people want to be calm. And I always tell my students, I said, that is a good motivation. However, that doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be like. That's going to be the experience. Mine was completely the opposite. To sit with my own mind and my own thinking was not calm at all. And I think that that is so, you work at calm. I want to be calm, and you keep breathing, and you're working really hard, and, you breathe. Tell me how to breathe again. Maybe I'm not sitting long enough, and, I got to get a better teacher, and, maybe I got to change practices. Okay. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go to another breathing practice. And so, or I'm not a meditator. This is boring. All kinds of things come up. And so, I tell people that the calm that, uh, that you're looking for, especially when I say people, students that I know are looking for this calm, that to be patient enough and breathe long enough for the calm to meet you. And when the calm meets you, then you'll be able to see yourself. You'll be able to you know, not feel you're doing something, but allowing something to come into your presence, and that presence is you coming into your own presence. And so, yeah, that sounds very solitary, But if one is in their own presence, then they'll be able to see others. You know, you cannot, you have to be awakened. And so coming into one's presence is to be awakened. And then so once you're awakened to a relationship with oneself, then it opens up the ability for you to see others. You know, even if you don't want to see the other person. Now that's where the problem comes in. That's where the suffering comes in. You wake up and you're like, okay, I don't like that person. I like that person. I don't like that person. You know, I don't love that person. Or if only that person could be like me, maybe I'd love them more. You know, those kinds of things come up. So then you have to go back when you start tangling with the other. So you go back to that place of the relationship with oneself, which might happen on the cushion. In your breathing, you go back to that relationship and seeing oneself and tangling and struggling with the other, you know, and then you come back out of that. And not that you have an answer, because some people are looking for an answer. Okay, now I got the answer. So when I see that person again, I can do this to them or I can tell them. And that's not really what it's about. It's really about still being with oneself. So when you breathe, you're sitting, you're allowing the presence of oneself to be met. And then you go out, and then there's the appearance of the other. And in that, you are seeing just what might be different, just what might be different, not about them, but you and how you're seeing them. They may still be, you know, they still may have the orange hair you don't like, you know, or they don't, you don't like the way they look or smile or talk, or oh no, they're doing that thing that bothers me, you know, but you're meaning it differently. You know, you're engaging it differently. Maybe not, you're not even engaging it, maybe you're just still meeting it. And so you learn how to meet everything in the same way that a butterfly meets a flower. Each flower it meets, it has to encounter something there. Maybe there'll be a bee there when the butterfly's there. It has to encounter, or it's the wrong flower or whatever. So they have to, you know, an animal meets other animals in a particular way. I mean, they check it out. They're not just like, they have an idea. Okay, this is the thing that ate mama or ate my brother. Like they might have an idea of that, but still they're meeting it in the moment, you know, from some other place, you know, other time and place. So when we're on the cushion, it's another time and place. When we get up, it's another time and place. And each time you're meeting someone, you're meeting them differently. And I have actually have had some really intense relationships with people in the beginning on the Dharma path, and then later to come find it almost like it's amnesia, like I forgot, you know. And then I meet them differently in another path, so the person hasn't necessarily changed to meet me better, you know, like, oh, they've met my needs, check, check, check. No, that I myself have changed in how I move into the presence of other living beings, you know, no matter if it's human or not. You know, how you move and how you interact is changed by your own relationship with oneself. And it's hard work. We're really great at going off to taking care of other people's suffering. We love that. Oh yes, let's go. And then when we get home, we have all the suffering sitting right next to us. Could be our own child, our own mother, our own sister, our own selves, you know. And we don't attend to it with such great enthusiasm, you know, as packing our bags and going off to deal with other people's suffering. We don't do that, you know. Self love and love for others is a kind of fragmented way of looking at love and the experience of love. And so when you're sitting with oneself on the cushion, you're not necessarily trying to gain that love just for yourself. You're just you're looking at love in its broadest sense, you know. And if you're looking at love in its broadest sense, it'll affect the other, you know. So if you have a little love over here for yourself and another little love over here for other people, then you're going to get caught up in managing it. I think I have a little love for you today, but not tomorrow. And I have a lot of love for myself today, but not tomorrow. So you begin to manage love like it's an object or candy or something you pass out and something you possess and something you created, and that's when it gets to be trouble. So there's a little trouble in the self-love and then loving others over here on the other side. Um, and I think or some people just I don't want to work on self-love. I love others. I love others, and because I love others, that's all that needs to happen. So that's the same thing as someone who said, I'm just working on self-love, and if I could just love myself, everything will fall in line. But both of those things are at the extreme of where I think love, well, actually, they're on a line in which love is not even on, because it's not on a line, it's not in a box, it's not confined. It's not something you can grab and hold and possess. And so that is always the struggle. So you do the self-love and you go, God, I still don't feel loved. And someone says, well, love yourself, like like a mother yourself. Okay, I'll try it. First thing you do is go off and buy yourself your favorite meal, like that. Something your mother didn't give you, you'll go off and get that. Those are okay. Those are not bad things. I'm just saying you're going to run into the inability to sustain that kind of love. It's really hard to sustain love that's manufactured and objectified and divvied up. So that's why I came to the term be love. If I could just be, and I don't even know what that is, sometimes what love is still, but if I could just be in that place of this kind of, I know a primal feeling of it as, somehow being held. Somebody gave me milk. Somebody kept me alive. And it's that kind of primal love that I just hold inside of me for this life and, and then that life, all life. So I'm in it. So it's not I'm in it all the time. I'm not in it. This is my self love, and then I'll love you later, or I'll catch up with you. So it's not self and other. It's just love, and it's not easy. Like I said, it's a path. It's something that you have to. It's something that you, I think, walk with all your life. I don't think it's something you accomplish. Just like you can't accomplish all of Buddha's teachings. You can never accomplish it. Because if everybody could accomplish it, and how long have the teachings been around? Wow, nobody's accomplished Buddha's teachings for 2,500 years. What's wrong? Or Jesus Christ's teachings? What's wrong? Because they can't be accomplished. We think we're accomplishing them, and we think someone else is not. But they can't be accomplished at all. And that's the frustrating part about it, but it's also the beauty of it. Because if we let go and allow these things to be and exist, what they were talking about, in a very grand way, then these things will be. They'll just be without us manipulating each other and manipulating situations. I created these four paths of being loved, and I have to say, each person can create, their four paths. I want to give people the opportunity and to choose for themselves what that really would look like for them based on their experience and how they might have opened to what love is. So these are just guidelines, and I always encourage people to bring their own um, experience in their path to this path, so that together, it's much broader and meaningful. So the first path of being love, I call that viewing love as moment by moment. So it's often that we feel like we need to you know it and then sustain it, hold it, wrap it up, draw on it when we need it. It's going to come out. Or then we're upset when we don't feel that, we don't feel like we've acted in a loving way, and then we're kind of down on ourselves, or we're happy one way or the other, that, okay, that didn't quite work out. So if you view love as moment by moment, it gives you a chance to forgive yourself, and also to stop and see, um, what next, and to take your time with it. So I talk about my parents by the time I was 10. Yeah, by the time I was 10 years old, they had been married 30 years. And so they waited late to have us. And so me and my sisters, and I, you know, would see them struggle, with each other, and often I didn't see that kind of love that they had on TV in my house. So it's like, this is not love. I thought, when you got together, it was all, special and all. It was not like that to me. It's like, this is like really hard every day, every life, every day. So I figured every day they had to make a commitment to being with each other, every month, every year. Um, I often do that with myself. It's like, this year, in relationship, do we want to be together this year or not? Like, not a forever thing. I think when it becomes forever, or we get like, oh no, I'm not going to be with you forever because you just did that thing, you know? And so that makes you kind of like opt out, and, all the exit doors. So I think that it's important to allow yourself to recommit, to go through and then recommit, moment by moment, to see if you can, until it stretches, where the experience of love, it's an ongoing meeting. It always arises and meets you. It's an ongoing experience. And even in the times of struggle, it's meeting you. And I think that just takes a lot. It takes an intention and a vow, and then you just let it go. You don't keep working it. You go, okay, I'm going to love you, even though in the moment you go, I really hate what you're doing. Like, it's not going to work because the person's going to feel it, like, I'm loving you. I'm loving you. So it's better to just be where you're at. You're not, and you're struggling. You're not feeling any kind of an experience of what you feel to be that love, that primal instinct way back there. Then you can just say, I'll wait for the next moment, and I'll wait and see if it's worth waiting for, if patience is part of the path for you. Now, I'm not saying if you're being hurt. I just really want to put a disclaimer here that if you're being hurt and abused, physically, verbally, any kind of way, that you need help, and that relationship or connection with people should be dissolved. So I'm not saying that. I'm also not, if your relationship has been, you know, uh, impacted by other people and places, then it's different. You have to really get help, in dealing with that. So I'm talking about if you're in a relationship with either yourself or people or others, that you are taking time, and it's worth the time, and it is inside yourself. You're taking the time to look at it. You know, bit by bit. I have had very struggling, very hard relationships personally. And I always said, do spiritual people really have bad relationships or what? Because it feels like that, and it feels like a lot of spiritual teachers struggle in relationship. And I feel like I have, sometimes I look back and I have a lot of remorse for my actions. And, I want to apologize, all the time. And, but apologetic life is not the answer. What the answer is to really see which, just what were you doing? First of all, let's forgive yourself for not being able at that time to do your best because you didn't know what that was. And so I do that. I forgive myself for that. And then I also move on to say, well, now, has it changed, for you in how you would view yourself? Because it's a way in which I viewed myself that allowed those things to happen, and there is. And in those ways where I hurt other people, I had been hurt myself, so I was just passing it along, basically, unconsciously, passing it along. And so, and then I began to understand, so that's that, but you have to view love as moment by moment, in order to, for something like that to arise. And so the second path is remember every life was born with love. And that's really hard. Like, look at our administration of our country today and go, really? You know, every life was born with love. And then along the way, things, are that love is not presented and expressed in a way that, you know, um, can be meant to not be harmful, because it's objectified. So love can become money. I gave you a lot of money, so that's my love. I gave you a lot of whatever. I helped you. That's my love. I gave you my attention. This much, and that's enough. So that's when love is objectified, and so we're living under what that looks like. When someone's taught that they were loved, through what they were given, how they were given it, and it's being passed on. So remembering every life was born with love, and then that means you're in it. Not it's about them. It's not like, okay, now I got to love him. No, it's now you have to really look at life, period, and the cycle of birth and death. You know, like a broader, perspective, and then it brings it out of our kind of smaller, little world. We have some very small worlds. Sometimes when I look back, like I had a meeting this morning, and I was just thinking, like, wow. When the meeting was over, I said, God, that was such a small world in that meeting. Because I was doing this filming later, because this is going somewhere else, and it was like, wow, this is really, and then even this is small, than even what other people would even like, who are dealing today or dealing with other things, so it's just these worlds we live in. And so understanding second path is really broadening that world. When you say every life was born with love, it's broadening the world, it's broadening that the experience of life for you. Third path, we cannot give love, we can only be it. And that's hard because how can you be it? You don't know it. You can't give it. You can't touch it. You can't, but I think you could trust it, to trust, like we trust the oneness of the world. We trust the oneness, the web of life, the net of life. And we trust that it's here. We wake up, we expect our food to be there somewhere. We expect air to be there. We expect the earth to be under our feet, and maybe it's not. Maybe we might wake up, no food, wake up, it's a flood, wake up, these kinds of things are happening. But there was a way in which we do trust the oneness of life, and we know that the experience of life are teaching us. We do trust that, I think, as people. And so the third path is asking us to do that, is to trust that the experience of life does exist and that we did come into the world with it, and we came into the world to express it. And then we do understand that it's been uh, turned around and distorted sometimes, and understanding that, and not having to go back and know it. Just like we don't have to really go back and prove we were born. If we had to prove we were born, that would be an interesting process. Like, yes, I was born. So we had to do love like that too. We came with it, and we have to prove that. We have to prove that we came with it. So it's a trust. Third path is trusting. So after you're going moment by moment, then your second path is broadening that experience of life, and then the third path is you know just trusting, that it's there. So love is for the benefit of everyone around us, not only to satisfy our personal desires. And so we're taught that love has to meet us, and everything has to be designed to meet our own, love the way we want to experience it. And so we definitely say love is this, and if you don't do it like that, that's not love, you know. And so that gets us into trouble. I think it gets us in with each other, whether it's an intimate relationship or not, a collective relationship with the world. It's still a difficult life to live and to ever experience. What we might experience, we consider love just being something that exists. So if it's not, it's for the benefit of everyone around us and not only to satisfy our own personal desires. Then it might become less interesting because a lot of people are not interested in love. They will not listen to this series because you have this word love on it. And the moment you start talking about love, click. So, that's real for a lot of people. That's just like, why are we bothering with that? Why are we even? Because I really don't believe in that, in this. And so, I think we are a country that even talking about love, like if for the fact any like presidential candidates started talking the way I'm talking now about love, you could just bet they're not going to get there. They're going to click it off every time they would talk about that. So we're not really open to that experience, really collectively. We have other words for love. A lot of people have other words they like to use, and that's good too. I think that's okay. But still, we will still come back to that word love despite the other words, and we still have a very deep, uh, unexplored desire all our lives for it. I think it's the deepest exploration. Love is the deepest one, and it comes from the birth process. I really think so, and we want that death process to be similar. We're hoping someone's holding us and touching us, like when we were born. Yeah. May all beings be cared for and loved, be listened to, understood, and acknowledged despite different views, be accepted for who they are in this moment, be afforded patience, be allowed to live without fear of having their lives taken away or their bodies violated. May all beings be well in its broadest sense, be fed, be clothed, be treated as if their life is precious, be held in the eyes of each other as family. May all beings be appreciated, feel welcomed anywhere on the planet, be freed from acts of hatred and desperation, including war, poverty, slavery, and street crimes. Live on the planet housed and protected from harm. Be given what is needed to live fully without scarcity. Enjoy life, living without fear of one another. Be able to speak freely in a voice and mind of undeniable love. May all beings receive and share the gifts of life. Be given time to rest, be still, and experience silence. May all beings be awake. Go.
It's never really quite flawless, is it? So I open up the discussion.
Yeah, I was sort of comparing what she was saying to what I learned when I studied my body-centered psychotherapy, and there we had, for the different levels of development, like the first round, the first 7 years, each level of development, um, there's a type of nurturing that you need um, to feel, I guess, to just feel healthy, to feel grounded and centered in yourself, and so for that first level, which is at birth, um, what's needed is to feel welcomed into the world, to feel wanted and appreciated. So, in her terms, to be accepted. And so, when we're working with um, adults who didn't receive this, so have this, we call it a missing experience, then, one of the things you do is you have them sit and hear the word welcome and see how that, anyway, and sort of a starting point for healing that missing experience. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, comparing that to what she was talking about.
I was thinking about, she was talking about this idea of, babies already know love, and then, it's the adults that are learning how to love. And look, my wife, Lori, was, spent the first 3 weeks of her life in a hospital room because her mother had given her up for adoption. And then she went to a foster home, and then she ended up landing in the family that she grew up with. But in that inability to sort of attach, that lack of attachment at the beginning of life, I've tried to sort of think about it as reframing that she was always love, and to come back to that idea that her natural goodness, her natural essence has always been love. And I think that's so powerful, to try to think that way. And that's sort of what I was reflecting on that idea of babies already know love. And then we learn. And then what do we learn from there is possibly rejection or non-attachment, or
I have some difficulty with that idea because, we learn from the Buddha that everything is conditioned. And so that I'm having a little bit of trouble getting my mind around, that we need to put in conditions for things to arise, and when those conditions aren't there, then they disappear. And before I started studying Buddhism, I had this idea that babies are innocent. They come in and they're sort of like a blank slate, and then it's what we offer them. But studying Buddhism, we have this idea of rebirth, and you're coming in with um, all your habit, energy, and conditioning from many previous lifetimes. And so what a baby comes in with, from one baby to another, can be extremely different. Um, and you can see that in homes, where you have the same parents who are giving the same love to their children, and children can turn out so different. They have such different personalities and whatever. They're their own beings. So they're not just being cloned by their parents. They're coming in with stuff. So yeah, yeah. Um, but it sounds like she basically went through hell as a kid in school with all that rejection, and she's found a way to heal herself, and has sort of she's worked up a way for healing. It's grown out of her experience, so it's probably going to touch a lot of people.
Maybe there's sort of a meeting point between those two ways of viewing how people enter the world, in that they can enter with certain conditions, but they're still entering into the world with the capacity to love and be loved. And so that's where that love is always present. It's just the conditioning may make it harder to see or experience.
Yeah, I certainly believe the capacity is always there. I mean, that's the good news of the Buddha, no matter what, we can train our minds, and yeah, and we can change things. Otherwise, why bother being on the path?
I liked her idea of this managing love kind of concept when she talks about, I have some self-love over here today, and then tomorrow I'm not going to have self-love, and then I love you over here, but I love you differently tomorrow. And I just like that idea of, she talked about recommitting to just moment by moment being in love, and letting go. I was listening to a monk, or I was reading about a monk that we're attached to moods. We have quite a bit of attachment to what mood I'm in now, what mood I'm in 15 minutes, what mood I'm in. And so I was thinking about, the idea of being attached to the mood of love, right? Am I getting enough love here? Am I getting enough love there? Especially if you're in a partnership, right? Like always examining that idea of the mood of love, and letting go of that mood of love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when we talk about metta, it's basically unconditional. It's not based on how a person is behaving or acting, but it's unconditional. Doesn't mean you may not want to be in relationship with somebody because of their behavior, but you can still have love or compassion for them. Yeah.
I appreciated her way of speaking of love in the largest context, especially as her talk unfolded more and more. And it's my experience that I think a lot of the human condition focuses on this notion of romantic love, as if that's the end of the world. And it seems to me, if there is a focus on the larger pieces of love, the unconditional piece, then the romantic piece seems to be able to take care of itself. Now, that may be very, very naive on my part, and I don't know if I understood her to say that. But it feels more kind of redemptive to look at the largest piece of love and its deep, 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 deep exploration rather than just on small ways that it manifests itself.
Yeah, I think that Suzanne is sort of speaking to like understanding that we all want to be happy, and yet because of our past conditioning or whatever, sometimes we go about very unskillful ways to try and achieve this. And yeah, so that's where compassion can arise in us, which is an aspect of love, because even though a person may not be acting in a very skillful or acceptable way, you can feel some compassion for this is their ill-fated attempt to get some happiness or to get some love. Yeah.
Do you think, well, we have two Americans with us today, but do you think that, I mean, you talked about politicians using the word love, and I'm not sure if Biden has used the word love yet, but if anybody could use the word love, I think it would be Joe Biden, and he sort of, he's got a very sort of, it's been said that he's got a very Christian religious background, spiritual background, which I think is wonderful, and he's of the generation which was called the silent generation, which is the same as my mom, and they came through these sort of hardships, but they had stoicism and confidence, and I sort of see my mom in that I've seen such unconditional love in my mom, even though she, had a hard time accepting me at the beginning about being gay, even though she had a hard time accepting that I wanted to have a child, and so I just constantly came up against that, when she turned enough, she could see that unconditional love. And it's just made me really realize why I wanted to put on this series, is because I think love is really powerful and important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for offering this to us.
I was thinking about Millie's asked last week about tools, because I think I'm sort of the same as Millie, is like, okay, but how do we do it? Like, I want some tools. I want some concrete things. And I was going to present a couple talks on some of the gurus like Harville Hendricks. Are you familiar with Harville Hendricks, Millie, at all? He, my partner and I went to a workshop in Vancouver shortly after we met, an Imago workshop, and it was fantastic. And I would recommend, you sort of tap into Harville Hendricks and his wife, Helen Hunt, not the Helen Hunt, the actress, but and they offer some really, really good tools on communication and dialogue. And my partner and I have used it a lot when we've kind of hit a roadblock, and it's really worthwhile, I think.
I'll look into that. Thanks, Corey.
Susanna, I saw you sort of nodding your head.
Well, I was very touched with your, thank you, very touched with your way of being in the world and how that came up against your mother's perspective or lack thereof. But because you weren't going to back down because that's who you are, your being was able to help her open up more and more and more and more. I mean, and isn't that what love is? That we hang in there and we're not backing away. That's not what this is about. And then you teach her to love. And then in so doing, you probably love her more, and then she probably loves you more. It just is, it's large and it's very deep. But I was very touched with that. Thank you. Thank you. And Joe Biden, he's Roman Catholic.
Right.
And is of the generation that going to church and saying the rosary and all of that is important. And it permeates who he is. And even in the thick of conflict, he'll say, "Oh, God love ya." Or my mother used to say, "Oh, God love them." You know, he's a man of his time.
Thank you for that. Sangamita,
Yes.
as much as this conversation is fantastic and lovely, we are sort of rounding out the hour.
Right. You're watching the time and I'm not. Okay, today our Brahma Vihara is equanimity. So if you can bring to mind a neutral person, so somebody you don't love or hate, maybe somebody you pass on the street or a clerk in the store, and send these phrases to that person. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depends upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. Now bring to mind somebody who's been very supportive of you and send the phrases to them. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depends upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. Now think of a friend, and if the previous person was a friend, just bring to mind another friend and send the phrases to them. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depend upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. And now bring to mind somebody that you're having a difficult relationship with. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness and unhappiness depend upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. I care for you too as a suffering human being, but I cannot keep you from suffering. I wish you true happiness, but I cannot make your choices for you. And now send the phrases to yourself. I am the owner of my karma. My happiness and unhappiness depend on my actions, not my wishes or hopes. I care for myself, and I am determined to follow the path of peace. I wish myself happiness, and I am determined to make skillful choices. All beings are owners of their karma. The happiness and unhappiness of all beings depends upon their actions, not upon my wishes for them. I care for all beings as suffering beings, but I cannot keep them from suffering. I wish all beings true happiness, but I cannot make their choices for them. May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Blair, Lise, Simone. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you, Corey. So this brings to an end of Corey's series of presentations on relationship. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Corey.
Welcome.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you for coming into my kitchen.